Good?
I'm good, man.
Nice.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the Breaking Ice podcast. My name is Josh Ferguson, and today I have the chance to sit down with Kevin Frank. And we've been in each other's orbits for, I don't know, years now.
Absolutely, yeah.
But never really connected until we were at the gym that one night.
Yeah, it was a few weeks ago, or I guess a month ago or so.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Ended up chatting for
way too long.
Yeah, like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
12:30 or something.
Yeah. My wife's like, "Where are you? Are you okay?" Like, yeah. So it's nice to finally meet you, and I
likewise.
see you around, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know that's Josh." But
exactly.
I hear he's a nice
You're
guy.
more of a elusive character, though.
Oh, I'm kind of a mystery. No.
Would you characterize yourself as introverted or extroverted?
Introverted for sure.
Introverted, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
That was my sense, but then once we got to talking, it was very much like you weren't uncomfortable after that.
No, and like I'm introverted in the sense that I don't think I'm particularly awkward or uncomfortable in social situations, right? Like I can sit down and have a conversation with just about anyone, and not seem too weird.
Does spending too much time around people fill your cup up or drain your cup?
Drains the cup,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the introvert part, right?
Yeah,
I like people. I like doing things.
I understand their utility.
Yeah, and then afterwards, I'm like, okay, this was cool. Let's do it again next year, kind of thing. Right?
Yeah.
So
you have a booming voice.
Oh yeah.
No, you're good. Keep it up. Nice. And okay, so tell me, just give me your background. Where'd you grow up and what brought you here?
So, actually, earliest I grew up here.
Oh,
in Norman Wells. Yeah, this is my second go around here. I lived here from the time I was 3 years old.
Okay.
Till I was 8 or 9.
And what brought your parents here?
My dad worked for Nav Canada.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So in a way, kind of accidentally, I've gone full circle.
Yeah. How many legacy Nav people are there?
There's a few.
There's a few.
Yeah. There's actually, when I came up, there was another one who I knew as a kid.
Okay.
When I lived here last time, because his dad worked for Nav.
Oh, hilarious.
Yeah.
You guys were like childhood friends and then both worked for Nav.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The odds of that happening were probably pretty slim.
I feel like that never happens.
Yeah, but it was pretty cool, right? And coming up here, it was kind of interesting because I had an idea more than most than what I was kind of signing myself up for.
Yeah.
Right. So
you knew what the lifestyle was like.
Yeah. So when I had to pitch it to my wife, and I was like, look, when I say there's nothing up here, it's not like, oh, there's only one Tim Hortons and one Walmart. No. I'm like, no, there is nothing.
Have you heard of Ramparts?
Yeah. Let me tell you about the northern store. Yeah. So yeah, I grew up here, and then my dad working for Nav, we ended up moving around kind of every 5-6 years. Sure. Because the company will kind of put you.
That's kind of the lifestyle.
They'll put you anywhere in the country, right? So a lot of people, they're like, well, let's go.
It's like being a child of an ambassador, but less diplomatic.
Yeah, absolutely. So from here, I went to Fort St. John, BC, which is where I spent most of my young childhood. Okay. And then as a teenager, we made our way back to Alberta. I'm from Edmonton originally, that's where I was born. We spent a few years in Leduc, then a few years in Red Deer, and then kind of bounced back and forth between the two before I applied for Nav Canada. Okay. And then
when did you meet your wife? I had assumed you guys connected up here.
No. So I met my wife. I've known her since we were 18 years old.
Okay.
I don't know how much. So I kind of always had a crush on her.
Okay.
and at one point, I think we were around 24 or 25 years old or whatever.
Enough of this.
Yeah. That's it, right? So we were in Red Deer at the time. And then over a few years, I was in the oil field prior to Nav Canada. Okay. And the industry was always so up and down at the time, right? So a lot of the times we'd come into work in the morning, and we'd all huddle around the computer. Be like, okay, what's
at Nav?
No, for oil field.
In the oil field.
We'd be like, what's the price of oil today? Is anybody getting laid off? And
oh shit, I guess that's a reality, eh?
Yeah, right. You do this before you even make a coffee, right? Because you're like, is there going to be any work today? Is it worth?
So if the price is low, you just don't pump.
Yeah. Well, I didn't work for the rigs specifically. We were just very connected with the industry. But yeah, it often meant like, I can't remember at the time, I want to say it was quite low. So if it was like below $30 a barrel kind of thing, it was like, there's a good chance people are just getting like sent home today.
Damn.
Or whatever, right? And then of course, like the physical nature of the job, like you're swinging a hammer or working a wrench for 12, 14-hour days. You're working 6-7 days a week kind of thing. I was just kind of like, I don't want to do this anymore. So.
Yeah, well, there's in those kinds of jobs. You good? You nervous? No.
Well, okay. I mean, probably. I was like, oh, don't say something stupid. But no, I'm good. Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Those jobs they're great because they like pay well and they're like relatively easy to get.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of volatility in them, or are they pretty stable?
Well, they're paying for your time and your body.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Like you're like, yeah, you make a lot of money,
but it takes us all.
Yeah, if you're willing to work, 27 days a month and have back problems by the time you're 26 years old. Right?
Yeah.
So like if you're just doing shop work, like a Monday to Friday kind of thing, like you just make you make okay money.
Yeah.
And some people love it. They stay with that kind of lifestyle and whatnot. And there is a lot of good things. Like there's a lot of camaraderie between the guys. Like you build really good relationships.
Well, you're facing adversity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And like, yeah, so there's that, but like, yeah, for me, it was just kind of like, man, I can't keep doing this for the next 20, 30 years or whatever.
That was I was a canoe guide before this.
Oh, okay.
And I worked at a summer camp and became a director there, but same kind of thing. Like, obviously it's not quite the same physical toll, but like, I was like, I don't really have a future in guiding,
per
se.
Yeah.
So I did need like an exit plan or like something.
Yeah.
Which
I think is pretty natural.
It's normal.
It's
right?
Normal. Like, yeah, you keep trying new things until you find the thing that sticks.
And then were you like, maybe I'll try now just because of your parents or your dad?
My dad, like when I was young, kind of pitched the idea.
Yeah.
And like, I can't remember how old I was, probably 18, 19 years old or so.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that sounds lame. I'm gonna go make that
a stable lifestyle.
Yeah, I'm gonna go make that big oil money. Or like at the time I was playing a lot of football and sports. So I was like, I'm gonna be in the NFL. Like I don't need NAV Canada. And then like, yeah, by the time, I think it was 24, 25, I was like, this job sounds amazing. Like, why didn't I do this when I was younger?
And it might not be like your passion, but it's something that you can do that is sustainable and is a good career.
Absolutely.
And then you can have passions outside of that.
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah. So something too, like one of my earlier jobs, I worked as a personal trainer.
Okay.
Which I would say like fitness is definitely my is definitely my passion.
You're a good advertisement for a personal trainer.
Oh well, like I do. But like after 6 months of doing that, I was like, I
feel like for an introvert though, it's not quite the right.
Well, because you're not like you can teach somebody how to exercise in a couple weeks, couple months, depending how familiar they are.
No, you're a motivator.
You're selling yourself, right? Like you gotta have people coming back in and whatnot, right? Like you have to. It's all marketing and stuff like that, right? And it just killed it for me. So like that was something like I was like, I don't want to make my passion into my career.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find there's just two different camps. I feel like millennials are way more susceptible to being like, I want to do what I love for work.
Yeah. You know what? And I do love what I do for work.
No. But like your passion.
I know. Yeah.
And like, I guess I can't say that I'm not a victim of that.
You know what? Like, I don't think, like, I wouldn't tell everyone, like, oh, you don't want to make your passion into your career. Like, I think it's very individual. But, like, yeah, for me, it was definitely, like, no, I don't want it. I don't want to do this as work. Yeah.
No, I feel like the value of not having your passion as your work wasn't ever like what didn't seem like an option,
right?
Like it did, but it felt like a bad option.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's so much benefit to it in a lot of ways. Like the thing that you love doesn't get the soul sucked out of it by being the thing you have to do.
And I mean, and what's like if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life or whatever. Yeah. So, well, I don't know. Maybe a little bit.
There's that meme where it's like there's that caption, but it's a cop like with the bat.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, he's just smiling. Yeah.
That's dark.
Yeah.
All right. So then you were like, let's go up to Norman Wells.
Yeah. So the basic training that we go through, it's all done at the ACC in Edmonton.
Is this for the whole country, or is this?
It's all separated by regions.
Okay.
So FIRs. So for us in the Edmonton region, everything's done in Edmonton.
Okay. Is this part of the Edmonton region or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, the basic training was about 6 months. And of course, like, again, I kind of knew more than most what I was signing up for when I went into Nav Canada.
Yeah.
I knew that, like, we could go to places like this. And, you know, you're probably not going to end up in Edmonton or even a big city necessarily.
Sure.
And then I remember one day, it was actually one of my coworkers who I worked with for a while up here. He came in, he was down for some training, and he was from Norman Wells, and he kind of like gave us this little pitch of, you know, like, this is Norman Wells. It's not the greatest place in the world. It's not the worst place in the world. These are some of the things you can expect, kind of thing. And then I remember him like talking about like the salary. He's like, oh yeah, this is what I make in a year. And I'm like, I'll go.
I've been there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that sounds good. I'll go up there. And then in training, I think I kind of sealed my fate fairly early by saying, like, yeah, I want to go up north, because it's usually a difficult site.
It's a hard sell.
It's a hard sell, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think they've quite figured out the formula of, like,
You got to sell the lifestyle.
you do, but like, I couldn't tell you what kind of person to send up here and what kind of person not to. It seems
It's a hit or miss.
Yeah. Maybe it's something about being up here. It really kind of, you know, you discover more of who you really are and what matters to you, because you come up here with this idea.
You can't cloak it in lattes. And...
Exactly. Yeah. There's no coffee shops. There's no movie theaters. Like, you really have to be creative.
Your identity can't be wrapped up in stores.
No. Well, even like if you're like an incredibly social person or something like that.
I find that it's more social here than not here.
Yeah.
That was my experience. Like, we were in London, Ontario before.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, there's more people, but people feel more closed off, and like, because it's so remote here and so isolated.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what am I going to do? Not talk to people? Like,
well, it's so community driven, right? And you rely on people, like, in everyday life, like pulling yourself out of the
getting
ditch.
Stuck in the ditch.
Who would do something like that? But it's a really interesting place. I really enjoy.
So how long you been here now?
6 years.
Okay.
6 years.
And has there been like a full, like, in terms of the staffing at Nav, has there been like a full shift in that time, or
almost? Yeah.
People are pretty steady.
So my supervisor, he's been here for like 20 some years.
Okay.
So like he's not going. He's seen it all. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if you've seen over 100 employees come and go in the time, because it's usually for new people getting out of training. They come up here, they do their 2 years, which is what we're required to, and then they're like, okay, that was either fun or it was awful.
So have they been checking in with you, like, all right, you want to leave yet? And you're like, no, I'm good.
I mean, like, I don't think anybody's particularly had that worry for us. Like, we're pretty well situated here. We certainly have the conversation of, like, you know, is it time to go yet? And every year it's like, no, we're good. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. And especially, like, it would be easy for it to be time to go if you didn't invest in the community in other ways.
Yeah.
And people do that. People come here and just are like, I'm not going to live here forever, so like, I'm not going to get to know people.
It's like, they come in with the intention of it being like a stepping stone.
Sure.
Right? Yeah.
But even if you're doing that, you don't have to live your day-to-day like it's a stepping stone.
No, I think like, you see that, and then people kind of, they miss the whole experience, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're like, well, I'm here to make money.
Well, I'm not going to buy myself a comfortable bed because I'm going to have to take it away.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah. Or like, I'm not going to buy a Skidoo because like, I would have no use for it down south, even though there's like limitless trails you could use.
Or like, you could sell it like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a commitment. Really.
Yeah. There's lots of like really unique experiences to be had here. And like a lot of people don't.
They just don't buy in.
They don't buy in. Yeah. They're not invested.
For no reason other than it seemed like it might be inconvenient later.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But if you do, there's so much to like discover and to explore. I've met a fair amount of people who lived here for like, 5 to 10 years and like never been on a quad.
Yeah,
blows my
absolutely.
mind.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I would say too, though, that like, because when we're in training, a big pitch of coming up north is like, well, if you love outdoor stuff, if you love the outdoors, you're like, and I'd be like, you're telling this to like people in Alberta who like visit Banff and Jasper?
Well, it's hard because like in those places there's more outdoors, but it's also more infrastructure heavy.
Absolutely.
You have more access. There's trails that are built. So like you need to love the like rugged outdoors, as opposed to just the outdoors.
Yeah, the kind of outdoors that if you mess something up, it might kill you.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people do.
But even like, I would have consider myself like an avid outdoorsman or whatever. But like, I spent over 500 days canoe tripping, and that was like a huge part of my life.
For sure.
And there's tons of places that go canoe tripping up here, but I'm not like running out to go canoe tripping.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing, and I love that it's accessible, but the outdoors, the like fix I get is like I go cut firewood. And it's nothing like, I was like lightweight stuff, get your systems down. And now it's like throw the axe in the back of the truck and bring some beer. And it's like a whole different thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's, well, and like, I don't, as far as like canoeing and stuff goes, would you say that like part of it up here is it requires so much more planning? Like,
yes, but, well, yeah, there's that. And then the other thing that I think that people don't fully digest is how much exposure there is. Like, there's no one coming. Like there is someone coming, but not in the way that you're used to down south.
For sure. Yeah.
And like certain satellite devices, the SOS doesn't go to anybody up here because it's so remote.
Yeah.
Or
imagine
maybe
that,
or you're in a place where the helicopter it only can accessible by helicopter, but there's no fuel there, and it takes a full tank to get to you.
And who's coming, right?
Who's coming, right? And or who's coming fast is the question.
Yeah, that reminds me of when our first or second winter here, we did the winter road, and we hit the ditch on the way down, and luckily there was a truck pulled up behind us 5-10 minutes later or something like that, which is incredibly lucky.
That is really lucky.
But of course, like we're all oblivious. There's 4 of us in the truck. We're like, oh my god, like thank you so much for stopping and helping us. And like it didn't quite click until he's like, well, I can't leave you guys because you'll die, right? Like it's the middle of winter, it's the middle of the night. It's like minus 40 outside.
Did you have like sleeping bags and stuff with you?
We had like, everybody had like winter gear, and like we had, an axe, and like we probably
you were semi-prepared.
We probably would have made it, but I wouldn't want, like I didn't want to try kind of thing, right?
Yeah. So who wants to try?
Yeah. Let's see if we can survive the night. Yeah.
When I drove the winter road, I had like, 10 gallons of water with me and like food and a stove.
Well, you did it recently too. Was this your first?
My first full trip.
Yeah. Okay.
But like my first experience in the winter road was going out to Oscar Creek to cut firewood. Yeah. And we just happened to go out on like a really blizzardy day. Yeah. So like it was intense. Like if you've never been on a winter road like that, it's intense when your cell reception goes out and you're looking around and you're not even on a road. You're just on like an ice patch.
Absolutely.
It's very intense.
Well, and you pull over too and like step outside of the vehicle and like you kind of like there's nothing for hundreds of miles.
The first time I went out, I just left the truck idling the whole time.
Absolutely. It's like, what if it doesn't start again or something? Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. No, it's really cool. I'm glad we did it. And I think that's like a really interesting experience. And then like
drove all the way out.
Drove all the way back.
Yeah.
And it makes for a good story, but like I did it once and
I'm not chomping at the bit to do it.
No,
to do it more.
No, man. Some people do it. They're like, oh yeah, we go down to Yellowknife. Like
it's kind of cool. Like there is, it both made me feel like we were less remote and way more remote at the same time.
It's crazy how a road can do that.
Well, the thing that really blew my mind is I was like, I could drive to my family's house in Mexico.
Sure.
Like all the roads are connected.
Yeah.
Super strange to me.
Something that I remember people kind of telling me about is when the jet leaves in the afternoon, they would have this feeling of like being trapped, right, in the summertime, right? Because like, oh my god, like there goes our last connection to the outside
until
world.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I hope nothing happens because now we can't get out of there till tomorrow.
I never really felt like that.
I didn't either, but it's kind of an interesting idea.
Well, it's true to a certain extent. Like there is the river, which is less useful these days.
Yeah,
but like, I guess I haven't felt like it because Northrate is here. Like if there wasn't North right here, I think it would feel a lot more like that if there weren't like planes parked and lined up and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I think part of that too is being connected with people as well, right? Because like, I don't know, let's say you have like a sick pet or something like that, right? You can call someone from Northright and you know that they'll be like, okay, like we can get them out first thing in the morning. Like these people are willing to help you, kind of thing, right? And again, that's something you get in a place like this a lot more than being in like London.
You're dealing so much more with the faceless help than like Travis.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing about being in a small town. Yeah, it's a lot easier to like get to know the like people that pull the strings or whatever, you know, because they're just your neighbor or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But like I would say too, there's also like sometimes there's a feeling of like being too connected. Like
gossip or something like that.
There's gossip. I mean, like, luckily we don't. I mean, we hear it about other people, which is, you know, as long as I'm not involved, I'm like, oh, like what's going on? But like even like sometimes you're finishing work and you're rushing around, you just want to go to the store, kind of thing.
Oh.
And you're like,
this is the introverted you.
Yeah,
I love this part of it.
And you'll see like 3 or 4 vehicles.
It's the best.
And like you're like, oh, I know who those people are. And then, you know, maybe it's summer, so like there's people chatting in the square and stuff like that. I'm like, man, I don't need milk that bad. I'll just I'll get it tomorrow.
This is an introvert who's been up all night.
Yeah. It's like, you know what? Like, I'll just skip lunch or something like that. And
that's pretty funny. Yeah, I have had the experience of like not being able to get things done because you connect with people and chat and shit.
For sure. Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm an hour late. I was talking to so and so.
Oh man, at the gym, I'm the worst for it. Because somebody will come in and I'll be like, oh man, like I was gonna exercise and now I ended up chatting for 2 or 3 hours or whatever it is, right? Yeah.
So when did you start working out? Like when did you discover the gym?
Oh man, so I've been weightlifting and training for 16 years.
Did you get started in high school or something like that? Or?
Yeah, so when I was a young kid, I started playing football.
Yeah, and
then I didn't really exercise or anything outside of that. And then as a teenager, I started getting pretty good. And a lot of my coaches and my mentors were like, "This, like, you could have a future in this if you like invest into it."
Strong.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, I'll go to the gym, right? And it was more like, oh god,
I feel like everyone starts that way. I don't think there's someone who goes to the gym for the first time and is like psyched about it.
No, I don't think so. Like, it's such a difficult thing to start doing. Right?
Yeah, it is.
Like, and it's depending where you start.
It's intimidating.
It can be intimidating for sure. So I did that for a little while, and then I don't know. By the time I was 18 years old, I probably weighed 330 pounds.
What, of muscle?
No, just fat, like not an ounce of muscle. And then I was coming up, like I was stopping the football, and I was like, I need to get this under control before it becomes like a real issue.
Yeah.
And like some people, like, I wish I had, like, they're like, oh, like what happened? Like, was there a moment you're like,
it's just hard work.
No, and like I remember I was 18, like I said, I was very overweight. I came home that night from work, just some teenager job or whatever, right? And like I remember I ate probably like 5 or 6 pounds of like just crap, like garbage. I drank probably 8 or 9 pops. I ate an entire box of cookies, and that night I remember I was just like, man, I can't do this. Like, this is probably, this is not a good plan. So the next day I bought a couple dumbbells from Walmart.
Okay.
And I just started like doing whatever exercises I knew.
Yeah. Lifting them up.
Just lifting them up. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And of course, like, because of football and stuff, I had like a general idea of some exercises and whatnot.
So you started playing football, learned about the gym somewhat, and then you got overweight while you were playing football?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because I played as like an offensive lineman.
So it was useful to have that heft?
Well, it was useful, and like in a weird way, it was almost encouraged, at least amongst like the teammates kind of thing.
But maybe. Why would being overweight be better than just being like jacked and like heavy but jacked?
I would say as a kid you just didn't understand the difference.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
Because you'd be like, oh, like that's Kevin, he's like 300 pounds. He's like, yeah, but he can't tie his shoes without
but he can knock you over.
Yeah, right. So like you see the weight, you're like, wow, what a big guy. He's like, yeah,
sure.
But, yeah, he's just like, he's soft. Like,
yeah.
There's no muscle there. But yeah, so I got into it, and then I started doing. I don't know if you remember the P90X.
Yeah,
do it. Yeah, it's
I do know P90X.
watching the infomercials at like 2:30 in the morning.
Oh my god, people would come to. Okay, so I went to the same summer camp for 18 summers consecutively, and as a kid for 7 years, and then as a guide for 7, and as a director for 4 or 5 or whatever, and this people would treat it as like I get in shape in the summer, and then like I go back to my life, and then I come back and I get in shape. So people would want to do like P90X on the dock in the morning before your full day of work, which was manual labor. Like it wasn't.
That's a lot, man.
It was a lot, but it was also nice because you jump in the lake and you feel really awake by breakfast and all that. But yeah,
that makes sense.
It's P90X. All right,
P90X.
so you started doing that.
Yeah, I did that, and then eventually I just got a gym.
Is that different from is that the ab one? There's what's it called? Abs. It's not just called abs. Leanna would know. It's some insane ab workout, and I think it's P90X.
There's
or did it have multiple workouts?
There's multiple workouts.
Okay.
Yeah, they kind of cover a little bit of everything, including like they have like yoga in there.
Sure.
Like plyometrics and some other stuff that's kind of goofy kind of thing, right? But it's a good introduction for like anyone who doesn't really know what they're doing.
Was P90X like the first of the workout videos? Like all
I wouldn't say it was the first,
but the biggest.
Probably the best at the time anyway. Like I remember it was
revolutionary.
Yeah, it was like wow. Yeah. It was and I remember you could get them on VHS.
Oh yeah, okay.
Which is it kind of shows how
I'm just gonna adjust this.
Oh, okay. Do you need me to move more?
No, you're good.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I get your shoulder in there. You get them on VHS.
Get them on VHS.
How long ago we're talking? Is it
yeah.
Workout videos on VHS.
Pop in the workout video into the VCR. Oh, I forgot to rewind it. Yeah. But yeah, no, I did.
So that became your jam?
That became my jam for a few months, and then eventually got a gym membership, and I don't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I remember for the first while when I would go, I would just find the biggest guy and copy him.
Okay.
Yeah.
But would you talk to him?
No. No, he'd be over there. He'd be over there doing something, and I just kind of like be in the other corner, just kind of
honestly, that's a good strategy.
Yeah, I mean, like at the time, like I said, I was probably 18, 19 years old.
Sure.
Like I didn't know anything about, personal trainers or anything like that.
Yeah.
I probably couldn't afford one.
You had been bulking for some time.
I was bulking. Yeah.
It was a strategy.
Bulk. Yeah. Yeah, but then I started doing that, and like, I don't know, fitness seemed to get a lot more mainstream. Yeah, I mean, you're the same generation as me.
Yeah.
It seemed to be like, I don't know, at a point where it became much more.
Yeah, it was like trendy to be like healthy.
yeah, which I mean, like,
yeah, that's okay.
That's an okay thing. Yeah, we can keep that for sure. Yeah.
And then it just kind of like went. Did you ever get a trainer or whatnot, or are you like completely self-taught?
No, I did get a trainer. Ironically, not until after I worked as a trainer myself.
Okay.
But like, I found there's a good benefit to that. Each trainer has like a certain style kind of thing, right? So like working with other people to kind of adopt their styles into your own and whatnot. But I just kind of kept at it. Eventually I don't know what happened. Like I kept doing it for a few years, and like I never noticed a difference on myself
until all of a sudden.
Well, and people are like, "Wow, you're like really jacked." Like, what are you talking about? Like, no,
I weigh 330 pounds.
Yeah,
I haven't been getting on the scale this whole time.
Man, you just kind of do it, right? And then like, people notice, and then you start to notice, and then it becomes, addicting to a degree, right? And you're like, man, this is awesome. And you just kind of keep the cycle going.
You always feel so much better coming out of the gym.
Absolutely.
And it's such a like part of like a healthy routine. It just makes such a difference to go and do it and have a dedicated space for it and
for
all
sure,
that kind of stuff.
Well, and the motivations change over the years too, right? Like when you're young, you're like, oh, I gotta be big, I gotta be in shape, kind of thing, right? But like now, it's you go because it makes you feel good, and you want to make sure
more like maintenance.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah. You keep the brain healthy, keep the body functioning. Like
I did a lot of climbing, so I never had as much drive to go to the gym because I just felt like I had so much more fun rock climbing,
absolutely,
than I did at the gym. I think like there were certain, I don't know, like my fingers got really strong and things like that, which are bizarre things to get really strong.
Yeah, like I've had people ask me, they're like, well, I hate going to the gym. It's like, well, then don't go to the gym.
Well, there's other things you can do.
Yeah, the idea is like,
but you're also not looking at it right if you hate going to the gym.
Well, yeah, I would say like if you're going to the gym and you absolutely hate it, that's just not sustainable. You're gonna have those days where you're like, man, I'm tired, I'm sore, I don't want to go because I don't have fun. It's like those days are gonna win, right? You're like, well, I'm not gonna go then, right?
Totally.
So absolutely, like either change your routine, change what you're doing, change the activity. Just like I just like people moving.
My friend was talking about how to start going to the gym.
Yeah.
And let me know if this lines up with your experience. But he's basically sends someone to the gym, and basically he's like, if it's hard to lift the weights, just do it lighter. Just get used to going to the gym and enjoying being there, because you don't need to lift heavy weights. Yeah. People go and lift way too heavy weights and then get like super sore and then never go back.
Or injured.
Or injured. Like yeah. So then you do like, his thing is like 2 or 3 weeks of just going and lifting easy weights.
Yeah.
And then you can slowly start to add weight. And then once you're in a routine, like every 6th week, you basically go and lift super light weights, but you do your same routine.
Okay.
And he just calls it tying your shoes. Like just
deload.
Yeah. No, but he calls it tying your shoes because it's like, if you don't want to go to the gym and put on your shoes.
Sure.
And if at that point you still don't want to go to the gym, take them off and go home.
That's a I like that. Yeah. I've actually thought about this like quite a bit. And I think there's like 3 phases into getting somebody. And again, I don't even know if I want to like specify it to the gym necessarily, but just motivated, like fitness kind of thing, right? But let's like using the gym as an example. I would say like the first step is to go. Yeah. Right. Just go. I like the idea because like putting your shoes on. I usually was like, just go, right? Because once you're there, you'll do something, and doing literally anything.
Go there. If you go there and you put your gym shoes on, you're so much more likely to work out.
Absolutely, right? Like now, whether or not like you know, if you're there for 20 minutes or an hour and you know half walk on the treadmill, at least you're doing something.
Sure.
And something is always better than nothing. But like the first step I would say is to just go. The second step is to learn. Like learn how to do everything properly. Like once you're comfortable there, you enjoy it. Maybe you're seeing a little bit of progress. You're like, okay, like I like this. I feel good. I like the way I'm looking. Okay, now I'm really going to focus like all these exercises, proper form, proper cues, proper techniques. And you know, really, really learn everything, right? Because like, again, into the gym, you can hurt yourself quite easily.
Yeah. Okay. Finish your train of thought here.
And then the third step is that's where the intensity comes in, right? It's like, okay, you like going, you know how to do everything properly. Yeah. Now, like, let's push your body, limits. Push your mind, see how far you can really go.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So what if you had to give like this might be an impossible question. In terms of like in thinking about how to do things properly at the gym, what are some pointers? Maybe someone's listening to this who's like, you know, I've been going to the gym, I have no idea how to do things properly. Sure. Is there like general things like, you know, one of the for example, my friend who also is super into fitness was talking about how when you're lifting weights, just bend your knees a little bit so that your muscles are holding you up instead of your skeleton, and then you engage more of your muscles naturally. So like if you're, I don't know, doing flies or something with the dumbbells, just a slight bend in your knees helps you get into more of a proper form.
Yeah. So like, I would say it's probably pretty tough to think of like some very general cues like that. Bending your knees is actually a pretty good one. I can't think of many exercises where bending your knees is going to hurt you more than benefit you.
To lock them out.
Yeah. It's just straight like load up those knees. Like, no, that's a pretty good one. Like, yeah, I understand that like it's intimidating, but like one, now like there's so much more information and it's so much easier to find. Yeah. And like that could be one thing, but I also understand that could also be overwhelming. So if you type in, I don't know, how to do a bench press on Google, and there's 400 videos and they're all slightly different.
But okay, here's my YouTube advice. If you click in how to do a bench press and there's a video that's 8 minutes, it's not to don't watch it.
Right. Yeah.
If it's 30 seconds, that's the appropriate amount of time.
That's the amount of time. Yeah. And that's something too, is like people can overcomplicate it, especially for beginners.
Oh my goodness. And then it's boring and then you waste your time.
Yeah. And then you have people who don't know what they're doing and they're just focusing on the wrong things. Yeah. Right. It's like, oh well, I was told I have to squeeze my shoulder blades and clench my glutes. It's like that's too many steps for a new person. Let's just lift the bar. Like, let's work on that. And honestly, I would say like the culture of kind of working out has changed quite a bit over the last while, at least in my experience. Where I'd say like, if you're at the gym and you're not sure, find someone who knows what they like, looks like they know what they're doing, and just ask them. Right. And like, I would be very surprised if someone inexperienced approached somebody experienced. It's like, hey, would you mind helping me out? And they're like, oh.
Yeah, I feel like over the last, 20 years, there has been a big focus on like personal improvement and personal growth.
For sure.
So people who go to the gym regularly, they don't go to the gym regularly necessarily, well, maybe, but not as their primary focus to feed their egos.
No.
There's a desire to improve, to be in shape. And this is one thing I really liked about rock climbing, where it was like, even the thing that people really liked isn't that you could climb really hard, it's that you were just trying really hard.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. That effort shows.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I would 100% agree with that. And like, yeah, I know there is the egotistical
For
people
sure.
who are like,
well, yeah, but if you ask someone and they shrug you off because you're not jacked and they're jacked, fuck them.
Yeah. You don't want that person's advice anyway.
Yeah,
right?
no,
like,
that's not the person you should be talking to.
Yeah, absolutely.
You should scoff and walk away and go find somebody else.
Honestly, like those people should just get kicked out of the gym entirely. Like there's no need for that, right? Like, the whole idea is to get people in and make them feel comfortable. Yeah, because it is such a scary thing for some people, right?
Have you seen that meme about the girl who is talking about how going to the gym is just like going to a bathroom at a club with a bunch of girls in it?
I have, yeah. And you go and everyone's just cheering you on. They're like, yeah, like you look great. Yeah, you can do it, right? That's great. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
That was one of the best memes I've ever seen. I think
it's good, man. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm trying to think about like there's a lot of people who go to the gym here.
There's a good community for it. Yeah, for sure. And like
the gym's pretty good, honestly. I think it's.
There's two questions I had because like I said, I volunteered to come up here.
Yeah.
They're like, you sure you want to go? I was like, how's the gym and how's the internet?
Okay. Yeah. Fair.
So those are the two things. And like, I think it's probably attributed a lot to ESO. Because the gym probably got placed in when all the ESO families still lived here.
That makes sense.
But it's like, yeah, I remember my first day here and I was like, oh God, like, when you go to a hotel, and you're like, do you guys have a gym? And they're like, oh, we have like a
fitness room,
a exercise facility. Yeah. And you go and it's like a deflated exercise ball and a treadmill that doesn't work.
And like the dumbbells up to 15.
Yeah. So I was really worried. I was like, man, like, is it going to just be a bit of a joke? But like when I walked in and I was like, oh, like
there's so much.
Yeah. I looked like a kid in a toy store.
I feel like the only thing that could be improved is it not being on the second floor.
Yes.
So you could drop big weights.
Yeah, I try. I've gotten in trouble a couple times. I try really hard.
Ruining the foundation.
Yeah. I mean, like, for the most part, people are reasonable, but like you just get to a point in like the weight that it's like, okay, like I can't put it down any softer. Like it's just too heavy, right? And there are a few things that it could probably use a little bit of TLC, but
overall it's excellent.
It's pretty good. You can make it work. Absolutely.
So if you had to kind of pitch your pitch for people to go to the gym, what is it in your eyes that is so awesome about it, and how someone else should kind of look at it?
It's like, so much of it could depend on where you are in your life, even just age, right? So for me personally, like my like mental clarity, right? Like it's like after I work out, this fog just dissipates and like everything slows down. Everything's a lot more clear. Obviously, like my body feels good. And then of course, like again, people in our generation, there's like It's like, well, I don't want my back to hurt when
Yeah.
when I climb the stairs or whatever, right? So there's a bit of like that aspect to it as well.
I think I heard this idea that, I don't think it's an idea, I think it's absolute truth, but that mental health is downstream of physical health.
Absolutely.
And
for sure.
like you were talking about that mental clarity, it's like you can be an intellectual all you want, but if you're not taking care of your body, you're not going to think as clearly as you.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. And taking care of your body is a big part of taking care of your mind.
Yes.
Right? So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they're like inextricably linked. Like you can't really talk about one without talking about the other.
No, of course. Yeah.
And that makes perfect sense, but our culture has also like separated the two so much, you know.
There's this weird idea of like, yeah, you should just love your body and accept it in any shape or form. But like, I think if you love your body, you should take care of it and push it to a degree, right?
Well, it's like I love my car, but I like never change the oil.
Or yeah, exactly, right? Well, I think about it as like having like, I don't know, like, let's say like a pet or something like that. Like, if you love your pet, you don't just give it whatever it wants whenever it wants because you love it, right? Like,
for sure. Or your kid.
Yeah, exactly. A kid is a much better, for sure. Like, well, if you love it, then you make sure it understands things like discipline and moderation and hard work and like all of these things. It's not just like, oh, well, it's cute and I love it, so here, eat a bunch of treats, right? Like,
but oh my god, I just had a thing to say and I completely forgot what. It's treat yourself like you're someone that you're responsible for caring for.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good way to look at it. I've struggled with a relationship with the gym. It's more like I've done physical things and I've had so much experience doing like exercise and whatnot outside in where I found it like really fun. So like getting in shape was like a byproduct of like something I love to do.
That's great.
Well, yes, except for that it's not like I can't just be like, oh, I only get in shape when I paddle a canoe. So I live here all winter. There's no canoeing to do.
No, that's fair. And like I think if you could supplement that a little bit, like in the summertime, I'm going to spend all this time outdoors. I'm going to hike. I'm going to canoe, and I'm going to do all these things I get in shape. And then come wintertime, I'm going to force myself to work out.
But my thought is like I should have a baseline routine at the gym, summer or winter, if I'm not in town.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then anything I do on top of that can either be substituted or in addition to.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like right now I'm playing hockey, and it's like I still try and work out on the days that I go play hockey.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Like, yeah. What was I going to say?
If you're in Norman Wells and you're intimidated about going to the gym here, don't feel intimidated.
No.
Come to the gym.
And like, yeah, like you said, there's quite a few people that go and like, first of all, so many of them are so knowledgeable.
There's a lot of,
like,
for sure.
They take it seriously.
Yeah.
And they do their research and whatnot, right?
For sure.
Like, if you ask anyone in there, like they will help you. And and if I'm in there, which I usually am, like by all means, like I'm happy to help with anything.
That's very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so good gym and good internet. Why good internet?
Oh, video games. Yeah. Talk about that. That's my other hobby. Make sure I keep my body working and staying in shape so I don't feel bad when I go home and play.
The dichotomy there is awesome.
Yeah, it's like, well, and I love to do it, but I have to feel like I've earned it.
Sure,
right?
That makes sense. So it's not like what you do; it's what you get to do.
Yes. Yeah. At the end of the day, after everything's done, I've worked the whole day. I've taken care of my body. I've spent time with my wife. Like everything's done. Then I'm like, all right, now I can go be a piece of shit for a couple hours and sit down and play my games, kind of thing.
Video games are so interesting because, like, at least for our generation, so many people still play them. Mm-hmm. And I played them so much as a kid, and at a certain point in university, my PC died on me, and I just didn't really have the money to buy another one, and I was like, fuck it, I don't need it. But every time I get the chance to play with somebody, it's so fun.
It's and I mean, like, for me personally, like, because I have friends all over the country, and like we've all turned into very different people with very different lives. Mm-hmm. Very different careers, kind of thing, but we all have this one thing that like we get together like once a week or whatever, and
it's a great way to stay connected with people.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think like,
and it's something more than like just talking on the phone.
for sure, yeah. You're engaged. You're doing something kind
You're
of
problem
thing,
solving.
right? Yeah. There's been a weird shift, like again in like our generation too, where like growing up, it's like if you played video games, you're like, oh, what a nerd. What a dork, right? Maybe it's just because now that like we're older, but like,
yeah,
it seems a lot more mainstream.
It's way more mainstream.
Yeah,
like like video games were just becoming so ubiquitous that everyone had a console in their home when we were growing up.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And now, like, the thing that wasn't a thing when we were kids is like people making careers out of playing video games.
What a wild concept, right? Like,
well, people do it though.
People do it.
Yeah. And but I feel like you shouldn't be fooled by these things. Do you know what a Pareto distribution is?
No.
It's basically saying that in any kind of distribution of anything, say skill, money, resources, or whatnot, there's always going to be a small amount of people who are hyper successful at that thing.
Sure.
Who control 90% of the space or whatever. In almost anything, and I think the distribution applies in like space as well in terms of like mass, like objects attracting mass.
Okay.
So this is like a law that is like shockingly universal. So the Pareto distribution is like, yes, it's possible for anybody to play video games and make a living out of it. It's possible. However, only like 1% of people who do that actually make a living that is like, I feel like it's hard to make like a decent living playing video games. Like either you're like doing incredibly well or like no one's watching you.
Well, it's one of those things like the barrier to entry is so low.
Yes.
Right? Like,
but I think that's what fools people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think this idea is like, well, I play video games, so why can't I make money off of it?
For sure. Right? And it's not like you don't have anything that the people who are streaming, other than tons of followers.
Right.
But like, I have a personality. I have a computer.
Yeah.
I got a camera.
I got a personality. Yeah. I like me. Why wouldn't other people? No, for sure. Yeah, I think it seems easy on paper, but it's also become so popular now as well that I think the idea of like the road to being a successful creator, streamer, esports, whatever, it's like the steps are pretty broken down now.
Yeah, it's less of the Wild West.
I don't think it's as simple as like, well, I'm going to start a YouTube channel and the rest is going to do itself, or I'm going to start a Twitch stream.
Oh God, no!
So it's like you gotta have a plan.
Yeah,
you can't just.
Yeah. Well, at a certain point, the number one job that kids said that they wanted to do when they're growing up used to be astronaut, and it switched to video creator.
Oh no, I don't know if that's healthy either.
Well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is, it's this lifestyle where you think that, well, at least it's perceived that you have so much freedom.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're a professional streamer, you're pretty tied to your computer.
Well, yeah, I'd be curious with some of those guys too, again, of going back to like making your passion your job, right? It's like maybe some days you're like, I don't want to play video games, but your livelihood is tied to it.
Yeah.
You know.
Totally. No, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like I work in videography, but I work doing other people's projects. So like there's a lot of variety there.
I was going to say that's probably a good way to do it, hey, because you're not really tied to one specific thing.
Yeah, it's both. It's both. Because in a perfect world, I'd have some sort of income from this.
Okay.
Say, that way I'm distributed, right? So I have like my professional income.
Yeah.
Say I have investments, and then I have something like the podcast.
Yeah.
And this is nice because I'm independent, and it's not like someone can fire me from doing my podcast.
Course, yeah.
But I could lose work with clients, right? Even though I do have distributed clients, but like say I have one big client and they're my only client or whatever, then it's like more risky. So I'd like to have some sort of a distribution, but then the other thing is like, I don't make videos specifically because I'm like, I like storytelling.
Okay.
And I like the technical aspect of it all, and it's really fun to like push my skill in that.
Yeah.
But I really like networking, and I like helping people, and I like solving those problems. So like this is a means to an end. like this is the skill I have to then help solve people's problems.
Sure. Yeah.
As opposed to like I'm obsessed with the video making process. Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah. I was going to ask, so like out of all the different things you do within your profession, what are some of your favorites and what are some of your like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to
do this?
Yeah.
I don't like doing my accounting.
Your accounting?
Oh God.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Like I have an accountant, but there's like, I think levels to having an accountant where you have someone who like just does your taxes, and then you have someone who like advises you and does your taxes, and then you have someone who you just like hand all your receipts to and forget about it.
Yeah.
And I'm not there yet.
Okay.
And I would love to get there.
Is there a reason you're not there yet? Is it a
I
choice?
just
Or...
I think maybe, but I don't know. I don't have a reason. It's just like the routine I'm in is I kind of like come tax season end, I save all my receipts, and then like come December I like reconcile the year.
Okay.
Which is I just think I'm not I should do it every month, but I don't. I need the incentive of like you got to get it done.
Yeah.
I don't have a good answer for I just maybe I don't feel like I'm big enough to justify it or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know.
But you could if you wanted.
I guess like like the other thing I've learned about working for myself is like I could just do anything that I want to do.
For sure.
You know, it's like there's no reason that I couldn't do it that way other than like my own decision not to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what else do I not like doing? I don't know. Like there's a lot of things that I really enjoy doing, but I have a very distributed kind of like I would like to simplify things to a certain extent and have team members who do different things and like grow. Like the thing I really bring to the table is like leadership and like sales skills. Like I'm good at networking. I'm good at finding work.
Yeah.
And I can execute the work, but I would like to have people who are better at executing the work that I could then direct.
Right. Okay.
And that is like directing is like really where I honed my skills before I started my own business, and I worked in a really social environment. I'm an extrovert.
Yeah.
So I would like to get to a place where I have a team, and whether that be like employees or other independent like entrepreneurs that you collaborate with, that would also be fine.
Okay.
But up here I'm in a little bit of a weird silo where there's not really other people working in the creative space to the same degree.
Do you need people here to do it, or is it something you could do electronically?
No, I outsource to people who are better than me outside of here, but there's technical difficulties to that, and we're not in the same space, and they don't know the client in the same way or whatnot. Right. I don't have any help shooting that much. Like I have one guy that I work with. I work with Jaden Stevens, and he helps me shoot here and there.
Yeah.
I don't have like a person who's like a sound expert that I could hire to just do the sound, or a lighting expert that I could hire to just do the lighting. So I do have to kind of develop all those skills myself. Yeah. And I really like that aspect to it. But like, you know, I like photography. I like videography. I really like editing. I like editing unencumbered, but it's hard to edit when I have like taxes looming.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would like to get rid of some of those other things and outsource them so that I could focus on, you know, the more creative side. The thing I need to like practice is like scripting specifically videos and be like, okay, this is the story we want to tell. Let's plan that out extremely thoroughly and then execute it. Okay. There's kind of two different ways of going about it. And at least the size that I'm at, what you do is I'm like, okay, we're going to shoot a bunch of stuff and we'll shoot an interview with you. And then we'll cut your interview to like say what you want to say. We'll plan ahead. And then from the B-roll that I shot, I'll use that to support what you said. Right. Okay. And then the movie way of doing it is you're going to say this and there's going to be an image that's framed this way that looks like this. Yeah. I feel like there's a hump where that becomes, it like can make things cheaper, but also way more expensive. Okay. Depending on how you like, how do I say this? There's a certain amount of planning that you do that will reduce the cost of the video. Right. However, there's a certain amount of planning that you can do and you can be hyper specific and you need tons of people to pull it off, which will massively increase the cost of the video. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. So I work in this like run and gun space. Okay. Where it's like, you know, it's hard to like I've built out an equipment set that works, but like I need equipment that I can like, you know, shoot a community event, the speakers, and just kind of like this person talks, then this person talks. So I need a lot of mics or something like that. But then I also might need equipment to shoot Northright, and we're like flying, and I need a small package.
Right.
So since I'm distributed on so many different like fields here, because there's not other businesses that take up those fields, I have to have like this really broad set of skills.
Sure.
Whereas if I was in a city, I think I could specialize.
Kind of narrow
more.
it down.
Yeah, it would be more economically viable. I'm a generalist here. Right. And if you're a generalist down south, they're not going to do that. I'm going to hire the guy that's way better at that one thing.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, for sure. Do you find like working for yourself, you view your time differently in the sense that like when I go to work and I work my shift, I go home and then I'm like, okay, now I'm done. I don't have to worry about it. But like,
it's different.
Is there like this guilt of like, oh, I could always be doing something, or do you keep it pretty structured? Or
there is guilt.
Yeah.
I am pretty good at like when I'm at home, I'm just at home. Especially with the kids, like they're so engaging that like once I'm with the kids, it's like I just
shut off.
Compartmentalize. Yeah, like unless it's something that's like really important, I'm like I'll do that tomorrow or later. I'm a night owl.
Yeah.
So like millennials who played video games, night owls by training. No one got up early to play video games.
No, stay awake till 2 a.m.
So like I would say my most creative, productive, technical hours in terms of like editing photos or videos is between like 11 p.m. and 3 a.m.
Sure. Yeah.
There's no distractions.
Yeah, and there's no distractions as well.
Yeah, and it's not like the CRA is going to call me and interrupt me.
Yeah.
You know, like there's nothing. So I would like to be able to work at those times more.
Okay.
However, I got this hard morning deadline where my son wakes up.
Yes.
And there's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I'm going to like work with that later. I don't know.
Well, I mean, if the idea is to bring more people on as well,
that feels like the idea, but again, like I'm like venturing into like business, having no business background.
Right.
But like I feel like there's a certain size where you need to like go from here to here, and the center is like a really brutal, like I don't know, say you were in like $400,000 or something in a year.
Yeah.
Between 400 and 1.2 million is like less money than if you were in 400.
Yeah. Okay.
And then once you're over 1.2 million, because like it's like tax brackets, personal tax brackets.
Right.
You know, it's like you want to earn at the high end of this tax bracket because therefore you get to keep the most money.
Well, and I think like, correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea of like the business too is you get to a point where it almost runs itself.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, and that's not the case right now because I'm the only person.
Of course.
So like if I stop, everything stops.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be very cool. I just don't know. Like it's funny because I both have the certainty that I will never have another job, but I have no idea what my future looks like.
Yeah. Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I know that I probably will never write a resume again.
Yeah.
I don't like doing that. I don't like working for other people.
Yeah.
I like serving people, but I don't like working for other people.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's this really weird space of being like, I know that this is what I'm going to do, but I don't know what my future looks like.
Yeah. What made you get into this to begin with?
I was interested. So my mom taught me Photoshop when I was like 12. And I was like,
it's a good skill to have.
Why are you teaching me this software?
Yeah.
And well, she was right.
Yeah.
So like I already kind of like spoke Adobe,
okay.
The way I think about it, since they have all these programs. So you can put me in like any Adobe program and I can probably figure it out in like a few days to like a very baseline level. Okay. Obviously like specializing in a certain program is like, I'm way better at Photoshop than Illustrator.
Okay.
For example. But, so I learned Photoshop, and then I had always liked taking pictures, but it was never a huge focus of mine.
Right.
And then I had a friend who I still work with to this day who I was doing a videography business in Toronto, and I was like, that's kind of cool. I really like that. And I had no idea how video editing worked.
Yeah.
I had zero clue. It felt like black magic to me. Like I just didn't understand it. But I was like, people do it. Like, how hard is it?
Sure.
How could it be? And then it kind of like, I have an eye. My parents are artists, so I like understand composition and framing.
Yeah.
I've been learning how to articulate it, but like, I feel like I've had an eye for composition without understanding why.
Sure.
For a long time. And through working with him and doing some contracts with him on the side and taking more pictures, and at a certain point he's like, you're just gonna have to film some videos and edit them,
Give it a try.
yeah and I was like,
Jump in.
guess so. So I was doing that before we moved up here, and then we moved up here and I was like, I need to do something, because we couldn't afford to live here just on one salary, because Leanna got the job as a teacher.
Is that why you guys moved up here?
We decided to come up here before we had anything.
Yeah.
And then we were like, let's both apply for jobs. First one comes up here.
Yeah.
So she got the job as a teacher, and I didn't have a job yet. I had never not gotten a job until I started applying for jobs in Northern Wales.
Yeah. what kind of, like, just
a job at the town, a job with the SDEC, like, I don't know, just anything I could find.
Whatever was
like,
around.
Anything that I could like kind of frame myself as being plausibly applicable to it, because I had a degree in outdoor recreation, parks and tourism. Like, it's not, people who graduate from that program end up in really weird places.
Okay.
Because there's not an industry that's like, we need this degree
right
for this job.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, I specialized in leadership, so it's very broadly applicable, but no one is like in certain situations, yes, my degree is very applicable, but most people are like, we're looking for nurses. We're not looking for outdoor rec leadership people.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, so that's why there's another part of me that just feels like when I'm in the job market as an individual, I don't feel like I have much value until I'm working within a framework, and then everyone that I work with is like, you're very valuable.
Yeah.
But like, in terms of the like corporate framing of like who I am, I don't know how to sell that as an employee. Does that make sense?
So like, my thing is, applying for jobs or handing out resumes and stuff like that is, until they meet you, you're just a name on a page.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, okay.
And I feel like the name on a page doesn't do any justice to how useful I could be to people.
No. Yeah. I like. Yeah. I would always say, like, get me to the interview. Like.
Yeah.
I can. Get
but not even that. Give me like 3 weeks.
Sure. Yeah.
Give me 3 weeks, and you'll hire me over the other guy 100% of the time.
Yeah, but yeah, just that, like, okay, well, here's Josh, here's his credentials. Oh, they don't match. Okay, let's look at the next one.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
For sure. Yeah.
And so that's why I'm like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Just do my own thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
And I'm really grateful to Northern Wells and to Northright, because they have given me the opportunity to create a portfolio.
Yeah.
Like, just all the clients in Northern Wells.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel very blessed because of that.
And how long have you guys been up here?
We've been up here since 2021, so August of 21, so 4 years now.
Okay.
Coming up, I think this August is 4 years.
And any plans to?
We know that we want to eventually transition out of here, and it's mostly to be closer to family, and even like my parents live in Mexico, so like, it's hard to be close to them without being in Mexico, but up here is really far away.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's funny because I come up, there's a lot of people. Normal is a very transient place, so you have people that whose history is here, and then you have people who come here.
Yeah.
And I feel like my family history is of people who move around, and it's interesting because you sacrifice the like knowing where your home is for the skill of being able to make home anywhere.
Right.
But there's also like, you lose something, which is like family supports and like a network. For sure. Right. Yeah. So like, we're up here and like, there's no one else.
You're by yourself.
We're by ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I envy people who have like family around.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I love the possibility of being like, we're going to just move to this place and make it work.
And you don't have to worry about anything else. No one else.
And my parents, like, they moved to Mexico when I was 9, and I went there, and like, that was what we did. So it felt normal.
Yeah.
And they built a whole life, and I learned how to do that. So it didn't feel weird to come up here it just didn't feel weird.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, so that being said, like we will leave at some point. Exactly when is still nebulous. And, and the other big draw is like having our kids have extracurriculars.
Yeah, that's kind of the...
like my wife grew up dancing.
Yeah,
and she wants Riley to have the option to dance whatever kind of dance she wants to dance.
It seems to be the clock that people get put on up here often, right? Is with young kids, right?
For sure. Yeah. So we will be leaving, but I also don't feel like if I leave, I need to stop serving the town.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And, like one thing that's really interesting about, I think, coming out to like Alberta at West, maybe, but like in Ontario, you don't necessarily see the rotational lifestyle nearly as much. Like that's such a thing in Canada. People fly across the country like every 2 weeks to go to work. That's crazy. I had never even considered that until like, I still don't really consider it, but for me, it's a thing that people do.
It's a very common thing.
And it's kind of sweet in a lot of ways. It's, I think, really taxing in other ways, but...
Excuse me. A lot of people live by it, and they're like,
but when you're home, you're home.
Yeah.
You can't work.
Yeah. I have friends, like, in the patch still, they've done 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off since we were 18 years old.
Damn.
And when they go home for, like, extended periods of time, it's just, like, a nightmare. Because they're so used to it. They're so used to it with their kids, their family life, everything, right? Where it just kind of like messes up.
Well, the nice thing about the 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off is like you just take off 2 weeks and you have 6 weeks.
Yeah, you have so much time.
That's crazy. Like and it doesn't even interrupt your year that much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's bonkers as someone who doesn't have time off ever.
Sure, yeah. Or you can take time off and then feel guilty about it.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's interesting. I think that I'm confident I'll sort it out, but I think going to the gym has been helpful in terms of kind of like a rigor and getting used to a routine and fitting it in and just being like, okay, like these are the things I'm going to do every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's good to do something difficult. You know? Like
hard things are good.
Yeah, it builds a little bit of resiliency.
100%.
Like, no one's gonna go work out and then be like, oh my god, I really wish I didn't do that.
No, I know. Sometimes I'll forgo I really should go in the mornings, but as a night owl, I'm like, well, I could go at 10.
Yeah. I've had that kind of conversation with like my one friend. He makes fun of me all the time because he's like a wake up at 4 a.m. and go before the day kind of thing. Right?
I wish I could do it, but I just can't.
I've tried, and like my workouts aren't as good. I'm not as productive during the day.
Yeah.
Like people ask like, well, when should I go? It's be like, just go
when it fits,
when it works for you, when you feel good and you have the time kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? Now, like make sure you find that time, but like there's no written rule. Like, oh, I got to wake up at 3:30 a.m.
Yeah,
and then go to the gym for 3 hours. Like, no, that's absurd. If you hate it, then don't do it. Like,
no, that's yeah. If you hate it, don't do it.
Yeah,
but hard things are good.
Hard things are good.
Don't not do hard things because you hate them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. To a degree, I guess. But
yeah. Well, that's our hour. And
Is it really?
It flew by. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Jeez.
Thanks for coming on. It was really cool to get to know you.
Man. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
This friendship will continue.
Absolutely.
All right.